Welcome to Plot Twist Street, a place where every story carries an unexpected turn and every character hides a truth they are not yet ready to face. If you think today is just another ordinary episode, prepare yourself because February 2nd will change everything. The morning begins with a sense of unease that Debbie cannot quite explain. She stands by the hotel window watching people pass by as if she is trying to memorize every familiar detail. It is not because she is about to leave, but because deep down Debbie knows that everything can change after a single phone call, a single letter, or a decision made by people beyond her control. The pressure does not come from noise, but from a prolonged silence. The kind of silence that surrounds legal troubles waiting to be exposed. And instead of running away, Debbie chooses to face it in her own way. She begins to reorganize her life as if she were preparing for an approaching storm. Ryan is the first to notice that something is different. When Debbie hands him control of the hotel, he assumes it is only a temporary arrangement, a strategic move in business. But the look in Debbie's eyes tells a different story. It is the look of someone who is gambling on a future she herself is not sure about. Ryan realizes that sometimes trust is not a gift, but the heaviest responsibility one person can place on another. Meanwhile, Kevin walks into the hotel in an unusually relaxed mood. He has no idea that within minutes his life will be pushed into a completely different direction. When he sees Debbie, Sally, Tim, Abby, and Tyrone gathered in the same space, his first reaction is not happiness, but suspicion. The atmosphere in the room does not feel like a casual meeting, but more like an unannounced briefing. Debbie tries to keep her tone calm, but Kevin is not easily convinced. He knows Debbie too well to believe she could be carefree in a situation like this. And then Carl arrives, his expression tense. In that moment, Kevin's doubts turn into a bad feeling he cannot ignore. Carl does not need anyone to explain what is happening. He looks at Ryan, then at Debbie, and in that instant, he realizes that he has been pushed out of an important decision. His anger is not just an impulsive reaction, but the result of emotions that have been building up for a long time. The feeling of being underestimated, replaced, and removed from a position he once believed was his. His words are not directed only at Debbie, but also at everyone standing silently around him. And when the others leave, leaving only Debbie and Carl behind, the air becomes heavier than ever. In that private space, Debbie stops hiding. She says out loud the things she once believed would destroy everything if spoken. But she also knows that if she keeps silent, everything will collapse in an even more brutal way. Her confession is not entirely an apology, nor simply a justification. It is more like a mosaic where each piece carries a fragment of truth that no one really wants to face. Carl listens, but the trust in his eyes is no longer the same. In that moment, Debbie realizes that sometimes the truth is not a key to salvation, but a doorway to a distance that can never be closed. Elsewhere on the street, Todd's story unfolds more quietly, yet no less painfully. There are no dramatic confrontations, no accusations, only the simple reality that he is running out of money and running out of faith in himself. In his pocket, there is only a small amount left, so little that he does not dare to think about tomorrow. When an unexpected situation at the cafe forces him to spend his last note, Todd feels as if he has lost something far greater than money. He turns down an invitation for a drink, not because he does not want to go, but because he is afraid of the moment he would have to admit that he can no longer afford the life he once had. And when Theo's message arrives saying he will be staying away overnight, Todd does not complain, does not question, but his silence becomes the heaviest response of all. Todd realizes that in relationships, people can accept poverty, but it is much harder to accept the feeling of being left behind. He does not know what is happening with Theo, nor whether he still holds an important place in his life. But he knows that if things continue like this, one day he will be forced to choose between his pride and a truth he does not want to face. Meanwhile, Bernie is confronted with a danger from the past. When Mal appears with his toolbox in hand, she does not need to hear him speak to know that her sense of peace is about to be shattered. Mal's presence does not feel familiar. It feels like a reminder of mistakes that were never truly resolved. Bernie tries to convince Roy to find someone else, a cheaper electrician, a safer solution, but Roy refuses. He is still haunted by guilt over the problems in Mal's marriage. And that very guilt unintentionally opens the door to a new threat. The encounter between Bernie and Mal at the pub takes place in an atmosphere that is both familiar and cautious. Mal does not say much, but every word he speaks carries an unsettling confidence. He promises to stay quiet, promises he will leave once the job is done, but his promise feels more like a fragile thread than a real commitment. Bernie understands that sometimes danger does not come from direct threats, but from people who seem far too calm. At the same time, in a house that is slowly losing its warmth, Jack makes a decision that Kevin is not prepared for. There are no arguments, no tears, only a frightening calm when Jack says he will be staying with Abby for a few days. Kevin tries to smile, tries to appear strong, but when Jack walks out with his bag on his shoulder, every layer of his resilience collapses. He stands there watching the door close and for the first time realizes that in his life there are things that cannot be fixed with apologies or effort. Kevin understands that sometimes loss does not come from dramatic disasters, but from small choices made by the people he loves the most. And in that moment, he begins to wonder whether he still has the strength to hold on to what is slowly slipping away. Behind all these stories, another plot is quietly taking shape. Shaw follows traces of the past, searching for one of her father's old friends in the hope of finding answers she has been seeking for so long. She believes that if she understands the past, she will understand the present. But she has no idea that somewhere else Jod has already taken action one step ahead. A secret phone call is made in the shadows. A vague request is spoken. And from that moment, a new chain of events begins to move. No one knows what Jod is really planning, nor whether her actions are meant to protect someone or destroy something. But one thing is certain. When secrets begin to overlap, the truth will no longer be as simple as it appears. Relationships that once seemed unbreakable start to show small cracks. And if those cracks are not noticed in time, they will become fractures that can never be healed. That day, Coronation Street does not explode with dramatic events, nor does it end with an obvious tragedy, but it carries a lingering sense of unease. Because sometimes the most frightening thing is not what has already happened, but what is quietly forming beneath the surface of calm. Debbie remains caught between impossible decisions. Kevin faces loneliness in his own home. Todd continues to struggle between pride and truth. Bernie remains uneasy about Mal's presence. Shona believes she is on the right path, while Jod quietly pulls the strings of a game whose rules no one else fully understands. And if you think it all ends there, you have underestimated Coronation Street. Because on this street, every story is only the beginning of another story. Every secret is merely the outer layer of a bigger secret. And every decision made today will become the consequence of tomorrow. If you want to know what happens next, stay with Plot Twist Street. Because when people believe the storm has passed, that is usually when the sky is preparing to thunder once again. Some characters arrive on Coronation Street like a passing breeze, but leave like a storm. And this summer, one name is music, making Weatherfield hold its breath. Cassie Playmember. Not because she is leaving, but because the way she leaves could shake the entire street. When the news broke that Cassie would be stepping away from Coronation Street, many assumed it was just another routine cast change. But behind the scenes, the story is far more intriguing. Cassie is not exiting because her journey has reached a natural end. She is being pulled toward a new stage, a new spotlight, and a new destiny beyond Weatherfield. And that is exactly what makes her on-screen fate such a mystery. No one knows whether her story will end in happiness, tragedy, or a shocking twist no one sees coming. On the surface, Cassie's life seems more stable than ever. Her relationship with Steve, once an unlikely pairing, has turned into something unexpectedly solid. They are not perfect, but they understand each other without needing too many words. Major conflicts have been rare, and when tensions arise, they are often softened by the humor they share. Yet, that calm is precisely what makes people suspicious. Because on Coronation Street, peace is often just the quiet before the storm. Some believe Cassie will walk away with Steve, leaving Weatherfield together and closing the door on old rivalries, unresolved grudges, and complicated histories. Others believe the opposite, that Steve will never fully break away from his familiar world, and when forced to choose between Cassie and Tracy, he will drift back to the past. If that happens, Cassie will not just leave the street, she will leave it alone. But that is only the surface of the story. Behind the everyday rhythm of Coronation Street, a much darker storyline is quietly taking shape. A tragedy yet to be revealed. A death without a name and a future no one can predict. As rumors spread about a major flash-forward storyline and a mysterious victim, Cassie has quickly become one of the most talked-about possibilities. Not because she is weak, but because her journey has always been shaped by risky choices and fragile redemption. If Cassie is the one who pays the ultimate price, her exit will not be gentle. It will be an earthquake that changes Coronation Street forever. Her disappearance would not only leave a void, but also trigger secrets that have been buried for far too long. Yet, tragedy does not always come in the form of death. There is another possibility, one that feels painfully close to Cassie's past. When she first arrived in Weatherfield, she was not a perfect mother or a flawless heroine. She came with emotional scars and a history she desperately wanted to escape. Although she has fought hard to rebuild her life, temptation has never been far away. And sometimes it takes only one moment of weakness for everything to collapse. If Cassie falls again, it will not just be a personal mistake. It will be an emotional disaster for everyone around her. And in that case, her departure from Coronation Street will not be a choice, but a consequence. Still, Coronation Street is famous for endings that appear simple, yet carry devastating emotional weight. A suitcase, a goodbye, a taxi waiting at the end of the street. No explosions, no dramatic deaths, just a quiet exit that lingers far longer than any shock twist. Cassie could choose that path. Leaving Steve, leaving Weatherfield, leaving behind everything she once fought to keep. And sometimes a silent departure is the loudest statement of all. So, how will Cassie Playmumber leave Coronation Street? A happy ending, a heartbreaking tragedy, a shocking twist, or a quiet goodbye that hurts the most? Perhaps the real question is not how she leaves, but how Coronation Street will change after she is gone. Because in the world of Coronation Street, no departure is meaningless and no character leaves without consequences. And if you think Cassie's story is simply a farewell, then you may have underestimated the power of the secrets still waiting to be revealed. More dramatic twists and emotional moments are coming soon on Coronation Street with storylines that will only get darker and more unpredictable as the summer approaches. If you do not want to miss the latest spoilers and shocking developments, stay tuned for upcoming episodes and keep following Plot Twist Street for the newest updates. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode of Plot Twist.